my channel. Today I'm going to be making over 3 different fall signs from Dollar Tree. All of these signs were really cute on their own, but I wanted to put my own touch on them. They are going to be the more rustic farmhouse style since that's my favorite. If you guys like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up, and also let me know in the comments down below what kind of videos you want to see from me here on my channel. Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
The first sign that I'll be making over is the stake sign, and I'll be using the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color hazelnut, plaster, truffle, maize, and pumpkin. I'll also be using these wooden leaf and pumpkin stickers from Dollar Tree, some jute, my hot glue gun, some wax paper word printouts from my computer, a spoon, a few different size paintbrushes, and some sandpaper. I'm starting out by taking my sandpaper and I'm sanding off all of the glitter that's on the sign, and thankfully on this one it was just over the word welcome. Once I have that all sanded, I'm taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color plaster and I'm painting the top board of the sign. I did paint 3 coats of this paint and also made sure I got all of the edges painted as well. Next up, I'm painting the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color hazelnut on the middle board, and I did 2 coats of this. And then I'm going to be painting that plaster color on the bottom board, and again I did 3 coats of this. While I was waiting in between coats of the boards to dry, I painted the stake part of this sign with the Waverly Inspirations paint in hazelnut. Next, I'm dry brushing this color plaster over top of the middle board that was painted in the hazelnut color, and I'm trying to do my brush strokes all in the same direction so that it gives it more of a wood grain appearance. I'm also dry brushing that same plaster color all over the stake. Then I'm going to be taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color truffle, and I'm dry brushing that over top all 3 boards, and this is going to help give it more of a wood grain appearance. This bottom board originally had the word patch that was a little bit raised, and I knew that when I dry brushed it, that word would pop back through. Now I'm taking my wax paper printouts and I'm going to be transferring the words onto my board. To do the transfer, I'm just centering my wax paper where I want it to be, and then I'm taking a spoon and I'm pushing over the letters so that the ink transfers onto the board. To make my printouts, I just created these sayings on my computer, and then I cut the wax paper down to printer paper size and then just simply place it in my printer and hit print. When placing the wax paper onto the board, you want to make sure that you're holding it really still so that the ink doesn't smudge all over the place. And also, you can use whatever you want when you're going over your letters to transfer your ink onto the board. I just like using a spoon. And for the last board, I'm just taking a little bit of the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color truffle and going over that word patch that was already originally on the board. I'm using a tiny bit of paint so that it still looks distressed. Then I'm painting this wooden pumpkin in the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color pumpkin, and then I'm dry brushing the color plaster over top. I'm also painting this wooden leaf, but this time I'm painting it in the color hazelnut. Next, I'm taking a little bit of hot glue and placing it on the back of the top board, and then I'm placing some jute over top of the hot glue so that it sticks to the board, and then I'm just wrapping the jute around in a couple different directions until it gets to how I like it, and then I'm just tying it off on the back and then hot gluing the excess piece down. Once all of my jute's on, I'm going to be taking this wooden leaf and gluing it over top of the jute on the board. I wasn't really happy with the color of the leaf, so here I'm taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color maize and just repainting it. For the final step, I'm taking this wooden pumpkin and I'm hot gluing it on the bottom board right next to the word patch. And this is the final result. Let's go ahead and move on to sign number 2. For this one, I'll be using this wooden pumpkin, the Waverly Inspirations chalk paints in the color plaster, truffle, and pumpkin. I'll also be using some jute and a few different paint brushes. I'm first taking off the raffia that was glued to the top stem, and then I'm taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color plaster and I'm painting 3 coats of this onto the wooden pumpkin. I'm letting the paint dry between each coat of paint as well. Once I have the pumpkin all painted in that white color, I'm taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color truffle and I'm dry brushing this around all of the edges and the front of this wooden pumpkin. Once I have that color all dry brushed on, I'm going to be adding even more dimension, and I'm taking the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in hazelnut and dry brushing that over top too. Now that my pumpkin's all painted, I'm going to be adding some hot glue on the wooden stem part, and then I'm going to be placing some jute over top of the hot glue so that it sticks to the stem, and I'm just going to be wrapping that around the stem until it's completely wrapped in jute, and then hot gluing the end piece down. Now I'm going to be using my hot glue gun to attach some jute to the back of the pumpkin, and I'm going to be wrapping this jute around the pumpkin about 5 or 6 times, and then I'm going to be cutting off the excess piece and gluing it down on the back of the pumpkin. Now I'm painting this wooden leaf in the color pumpkin, and once that's dry, I'm dry brushing the color truffle over top. For the last step, I'm hot gluing this wooden leaf right on top of the jute. And this is the final look for the wooden pumpkin. Let's move on to the third and final sign. For this one, I'll be using this Halloween sign from Dollar Tree, Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in plaster, truffle, and in hazelnut. These fall florals, and also this metal thankful word, both from Dollar Tree. A small grapevine wreath, some painter's tape, my hot glue gun, some raffia, a few different paint brushes, and some pliers to cut my stems. For this one, I'm using the back side of the sign, and I'm taking some painter's tape and I'm taping off to where I would want it to appear like wood planks. Once I've got everything all taped off, I'm going to be using the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm going to be painting both outsides of the sign in this color. I painted on 2 coats of this paint, and I made sure that I painted on all of the edges and sides of the sign as well. Once my paint has completely dried, I'm peeling off the painter's tape from both sides. Then I'm going to be taking another piece of painter's tape, and I'm going to be placing it in the center to where I would have 2 more wood planks, and I'm painting the one side with the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color truffle. When painting this right next to that plaster color, I'm trying to be as careful as I can so that I don't have a bunch of smudges. Once the truffle color has dried, I'm painting on the hazelnut color on the last strip of the board. And I did have to go back through and touch up some spots where I had a few smudges. Now I'm taking the color truffle and I'm dry brushing that over the 2 sides that were painted in plaster, and then the one strip that was painted in hazelnut. After I dry brushed those in truffle, I took some of the plaster color and I dry brushed that over top of the truffle strip and also a little bit on the hazelnut strip as well. After I've got my board all painted, I'm going to be taking this raffia and I'm going to be wrapping it around my grapevine wreath. I'm leaving about a 1/2 inch in between, and then once I get to the very end, I'm going to be cutting it off and then just hot gluing the end piece down. Now I'm going to be painting a little bit of this plaster color over top of my metal word thankful, and once that's dry, then I'm going to be painting on a little bit of that color hazelnut, and I'm just dabbing the paint over top. Next, I'm using my pliers to cut the stems off of these flowers. I'm only using 2 of these flowers, but I'm just using the end of the stem that I cut off to place it in between the grapevines in the wreath. I'm centering my wreath and my word down on my board so that I know where I want to put them before I start hot gluing them down. I'm just putting the hot glue right on the board, and then I'm pressing the wreath down, and I'm gluing it in 2 different spots, the top and the bottom of the wreath. And then for the words, I'm just placing some hot glue on the back side of the metal and then just pressing it down onto the board. And that is the last step for this sign. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you would subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching.